My name is Larissa. Welcome to our presentation, Get to Know Tahiti and Paul Gauguin Cruises. I guess I would consider myself a Tahiti expert as I spend many months every year there for years and years. And I just love the different islands. Each island is very different. It may sound a bit corny, like, okay, of course, you've seen one sandy beach with palm trees, you've seen them all, but when you start visiting the islands in Tahiti, each one actually has its own personality, and you may decide that you like one island more than another. And Paul Gauguin Cruises is a great way to get an introduction to a good handful of the islands and see which ones you might like. So with me this evening is Sandy with We Make Travel Easy. And Sandy is a travel expert. She was voted Condé Nast top travel advisor and has been on the Paul Gauguin cruise a couple years ago. So I introduce you to Sandy.
Hi, thank you, Larissa. Yeah, I mean, Tahiti is fabulous. What you're looking at behind me is an actual photograph I took. That is the color of the water. That turquoise is really from my camera. And oops. And that's actually a private island that Paul Gauguin takes you to on the cruise. The cruise is an amazing way to go. The ship is fabulous. You're going to get to see a lot of wonderful things about it. You get to see all the islands. It's a great way to see Tahiti first time out. Then you can come back and see what you want. I mean, it's like, why go to Hawaii when you can go to Tahiti? I mean, it's just worlds apart. So you're going to see all the wonderful things about the Paul Gauguin ship, all the things you get to see, all the beautiful Tahiti, and the pictures are amazing. And they're French. The food on the ship is incredible, as well as the wine selections and everything. And they have fun entertainment, and it's really, really great. So I'm going to introduce Rolf Freeman, who is our BDM, our Business Development Manager from Paul Gauguin Cruises. And Rolf, let's see where we go with Paul Gauguin.
Sounds good. Thank you, ladies. And I am here with Kathleen Batiste, who is our Sales and Marketing Manager. And she is a wonderful, wonderful co-worker, and she's on along with us. So this is a very casual presentation because Tahiti, being the destination that it is, very relaxed, everything. And Larissa and Kathleen as well, if something comes up that strikes you about your experience and your past with either Paul Gauguin or the destination, absolutely feel free to chime in with those words as well. But one of the things that I think stands out, as you can see in this photo here, is Tahiti is one of the most stunningly beautiful places on the planet. I know it's regarded that way by so many people, but with good reason. It's just absolutely off the charts beautiful. And the thing that I think is a bit of a predicament or a dilemma about French Polynesia and Tahiti is a lot of people aren't really certain exactly where it is. It is one reason for that, and it's understandable. It's about as far from a landmass as you can possibly get in the world. And so here it is, as you can see, tucked in between 4 continents, about equidistant from Asia, Australia, North America, and South America, smack dab in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And as a result, a lot of people aren't really certain where it is. It's 8.5 hours from Los Angeles, whereas Hawaii is 5 hours from Los Angeles. So we were talking about this earlier, just a cocktail and a movie from, they experience getting to Honolulu from the West Coast. It's really unbelievable how different, though, Tahiti and Hawaii are from one another. Even though they're both beautiful tropical destinations, Hawaii, there are more people that visit Hawaii in 1 week than visit all of the islands of French Polynesia and Tahiti combined, 118 total in 1 year. And there are more hotel rooms in the MGM Grand in Las Vegas than there are in all of French Polynesia combined.
Ralph, when I was there, they said that the statistic I heard that 10 million people a year go to Hawaii, 250,000 go to Tahiti.
That's exactly.
So, I mean, it's like Disneyland versus, seeing real nature and real beauty.
Yeah, it's very, very different. And I think sometimes people think, well, I've been to Hawaii, I know Hawaii, and I've gotten to familiar with those islands, so I kind of feel like I must know what Tahiti is like, what does that. And Hawaii has its natural beauty, of course, but as you said, I mean, the difference in numbers of visitors is so pronounced. And one example I'll give you, we were talking earlier, riding around Bora Bora, it's only 32 kilometers around, so you can rent a bike there and go around the island in a few hours, very leisurely. 90% of the locals that you pass on the road biking, they will wave and say, Yaurana, Tahitian for, hello, and greet you. And it's just got this quality of, familiarity and warmth that I don't think you're going to see in Hawaii, just because Hawaii's Honolulu, big city, and the whole experience, and the islands are very, very different. So really,
I want to jump in on that. Just to let you know, when I was there on my Paul Gauguin cruise, there were a bunch of people from Hawaii. So the Hawaiians go to Tahiti for vacation.
Absolutely. No question about it. It's a 4-5 hour flight, I think. And that's the thing about the location. If you look at this map, Tahiti is directly south of Hawaii, of Honolulu. So it's the same time zone as Hawaii. A lot of people have it in their head that, well, it's so far away because you go deeper into the Pacific that it must, some people even think, again, not savvy travelers, but I've talked to some people that think you cross the date line to get to Tahiti, and it's not that far, but it's the same time zone directly south of Honolulu and Hawaii, just south of the equator versus north. So really, the destination is very, very different. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, obviously, as we go through. But one of the beautiful things about the experience, and again, Sandy, feel free to break in on this too, is we are the only fully all-inclusive experience in all of French Polynesian Tahiti, land or at sea. No one else combines all of the all-inclusive package. And the reason that that's so important to point out is not only, of course, is it easier on you just doing what you do and not having to worry about signing chits and so forth, but one of the blessings of French Polynesian Tahiti is its remote locale, but also one of the challenges is it's one of the most expensive places to travel to on Earth, because so much has to be brought in from so far away that it contributes to the cost of everything. Dining out, a la carte on your own in beautiful places like Moray and Bora Bora and so forth is extremely pricey. A dinner out there is going to be considerably more than it would be even in fairly pricey cities like Chicago, where Larissa is, and where Sandy and I are in San Francisco, and Seattle, where Kathleen is, but much more pricey. So as you can see, all of your meals are included. As Sandy pointed out earlier, we have 3 dining venues on the ship, all of which have distinctly different menus and what we serve. So there is a French dining destination called La Veranda, which focuses on more of a French experience. Then there's the main L'Etoile dining room, which is dinner only, and that's across the board. You can find whatever you'd like there, from vegan, vegetarian to poultry, seafood, so on and so forth. And then there is a fusion menu in Le Grill, the third one, which is more of a fusion of Asian, Polynesian, and that destination, that part of the world. So they really are uniquely different, all 3 of those dining venues. Complimentary 24-hour room service is offered. They're in each of the categories of staterooms. You'll find a mini bar stocked with whatever it is you'd like, whether it's beer, water, sodas that you're going through on a regular basis, replenished with whatever you're consuming. And throughout the ship itself, cocktails, wines, spirits are complimentary, even very nice premium quality Kettle One vodka, things like that are all packaged into the price. Gratuities as well. And so all of this is really put in together so that you don't have to worry about any of those issues coming up. And the consortium that the ladies belong to, Virtuoso, does have shipboard credit on virtually every sailing, almost every one that we have, which can be used for anything that isn't packaged in excursions, obviously personal purchases, spa appointments, things of that nature. So this all-inclusive is not just mentally an easier thing to deal with, but financially it just contributes to a great experience in terms of having it all packaged together. And again, no one else has that, not offers that. What I think, we like to use the term, all of us in sales, we tend to repeat it, the real secret sauce to this experience in so many ways, and Sandy, you can mention, your experience. Our staff and crew is, to me, just off the charts, warm, gracious, very special people that really, truly, you can see how much they enjoy what they do, being of service, greeting our guests, being around them. We have really two levels of that staff. One is all of the staff crew, as you can see in the lower picture, that handle, working in the dining venues, service, so on and so forth. What I love is they're not buttoned up formal whatsoever, because Tahiti's not that type of a destination, French Polynesia. So very relaxed in terms of when they meet you and greet you. It's more like, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Baxter, and not like that. It's more like, Mr. John, Mrs. Sally, how are you? Come on in. And our guests love that. It's just such an informal, warm way of greeting. And then we also have a troupe of young French Polynesians from the local surrounding islands called Les Gauguin that work with us on board as staff, kind of ambassadors of the culture. And you can see they're lovely people, beautiful people physically, but beautiful in their spirit. And they're so proud of their culture. So you'll often see them and hear them playing ukulele, guitar, dance, entertainment on stage in the evenings, hosting, meeting, greeting, departures for shore excursions and so forth. Just lovely, lovely people. And they really contribute so much to the atmosphere and the ambiance on board the ship as you're experiencing the Paul Gauguin, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, however long you're on. They contribute mightily to this vibe and this atmosphere on the ship itself, which is so priceless.
These young people are wonderful. I mean, it was so much fun because there were a lot of activities that you could do in the few times that we were sailing, and not having to, because lots of times we sailed at night.
Right.
In the daytime. And I mean, there was like Tahiti dance lesson, which was kind of like a swing lesson, and I'm a dancer. I love that. That was so much fun. And then we did tattooing and stuff, and it was the same people, and they got to know you, and we joked, and it was just really fun. It was like being with your Tahitian friends on board.
Exactly. They're just very warm people, and I love that they're so proud of their culture and want to share it with you so much. And again, along what you were just saying, Sandy, is there is an evening, it's the Tahitian evening, even though the atmosphere is very Polynesian throughout the course of the cruise. One specific evening, as you enter into the dining venue and entertainment and so forth, they'll be out there, making leis and so forth, and crowning you with them as you go in. And this fragrance of just all of this, the floral fragrance is just so intoxicating. And it's just a very special part of the cruise. Now, it is a small ship experience. Our maximum occupancy is 332. What I think is very beautiful about it is that almost 70% of our accommodations have balconies or verandas. Now, on any specific cruise that you go on, you don't need a balcony or veranda. North Atlantic crossing on the Queen Mary or whatever isn't so much a necessity. But here in French Polynesia, with the average temperature being mid to lower 80s, on average throughout the course of the year almost, it's just so nice to be able to open that veranda door, have those breezes come in, sip your morning coffee out there, have a meal out there, sip a glass of wine, just have that outdoor feel coming into the accommodations too.
Ralph, I love having room service for breakfast, like that. And so I would have my coffee and my croissant and some fresh, fruit, and I'd sit on the balcony, just there and just soaking in its gorgeous views. I mean, that was like heaven. You didn't have to get dressed up to go down to breakfast. I mean, they brought it, and here I am having a fabulous croissant with some wonderful coffee, and I've got this gorgeous, incredible view right there.
Right. Well, you kind of led me into thinking how we describe the ship itself, because of those 70% having verandas or balconies. We call it our floating overwater bungalow, because the overwater bungalows are so popular and they are beautiful. People dream about going to Bora Bora Moray and staying in an overwater bungalow and having the glass floor to see I have stayed in an overwater bungalow, and it is unique. It's an extraordinary experience. But what Sandy was just talking about too is interesting. When you are sitting there at anchor and the ship itself does not stay static. It kind of slowly moves around according to the flow of the water a little bit. So you might be looking at this beautiful view of a church on the water, and then, you know, an hour later, you're looking at another angle over by another part of the island. And so, you know, it's very subtle, but it does change the view as you are in port that day. And so you can experience a different perspective at a different time of day. The suites and staterooms, which I will not go through all of the variety of, are from 200 square feet, as it says, to almost 600, because we have these owner suites and, you know, these grand suites, which are gorgeous, a couple of each of those. And we also have a 1 to 1.5 crew to guest ratio, about 220 staff and crew for those 330 or so guests. So they are all over the ship, you know, never in your face whatsoever. But as I said before, always gracious, always solicitous, always warm, just making sure whatever you need, that cup of coffee is empty, boom, that cup of coffee is going to be filled, you know, when you're sitting out there on the veranda, whatever it may be. And then I will speak about this onboard water sports marina, because being Tahiti and French Polynesia, the water is a big part of the attraction down here. As I said, incredibly clear, warm, like bath water year round. It doesn't matter what time. There's no off season where it's a little too cool to go, anything like that. Now, real quickly, on the side here, that's a very important visual as well, because the ship was designed, purpose-built for this part of the world. She never leaves French Polynesia, Tahiti, in that area, and the Pacific Rim, other than Fiji, Tonga too, a few times during the year, but always in the Pacific Rim in that sense. So she was built with a very shallow draft, which enables us to get much closer to the islands than larger ships ever can. And this is an example here. We're nestled right up against this lush tropical vegetation here, where you feel like you could almost just reach out from your veranda or the pool deck and touch it. It's so glorious in that sense. And an example of that is the island of Bora Bora, which we'll talk about and show you, is surrounded by a coral reef almost all the way around the island, except for one gap in that reef. Our ship is able to access the interior of that reef because of that shallow draft. So there are other cruise lines, of course, needless to say, that go through French Polynesia and the South Pacific on their world cruises, on their way to Australia, whatever it may be, but they just do not have that intimate access. They're larger ships usually, with some exceptions, but they just do not have that access that we have based on that shallow draft to get us in to these much closer scenarios like you can see in this image here. And it really does make a big, big difference. Now, this is just one category. I kind of chose a mid-range category, C and D, which does have a balcony. They are very comfortable. As you can see, flat screen television, of course, in every stateroom. That circular rounded wooden area there, that's the in-room mini bar that I mentioned, stocked and restocked and replenished with whatever you may be consuming during the course of the cruise. As Sandy talked about, just outside those doors, you can pull up one of the deck chairs and sit out there and read a book or have your coffee and croissant, and very nicely laid out. There are no sharp angles to work around in the rooms. Real quickly, we have just completed a dry dock with a refurbishment of the ship within the last couple of months. We don't even have brand new photography because the ship has not been sailing. So we don't have a full photo shoot that's been done, but I'll be able to provide that to Sandy and Larissa. Kathleen will be able to work with us to get that to them with new images that are going to be available. But it has been done up differently than what you see here, and very beautifully, I know. So one change that will be made is that Wi-Fi, unlimited Wi-Fi, will now be included. That used to be an additional charge. Now that we're gonna resume sailing August 28th, that will be included as well. So some decor was handled, as well as technical issues as well. So this slide is just to show you really where we specialize in going on the Paul Gauguin. In the center, of course, is our main foundation workhorse itinerary, so to speak, which is the one we do the most often. It's the round trip Papeete, 7 nights, which is the one that I'll take you through now. But then we also, and in the interest of time, don't really have as much time to show you all the other itineraries, but we do the Tuamotus as well as the Society Islands, which is a 10, 11 night. And that's beautiful, glorious water, excellent for water sports enthusiasts, scuba and snorkeling and so forth, as are, of course, the Society Islands. But then our longest cruise is 14 nights, which would be 3 of the 4 archipelagos that we visit, island groups, Marquesas included, Tuamotus, and the Society Islands. And the Marquesas are very different. It's all in our brochure and on our website, and the ladies can get you more information. More volcanic mountains, black sand. They're not the coral reef islands like the Society Islands, so forth. But really kind of like the ends of the earth. I saw a fascinating presentation by the late Anthony Bourdain on that, which just hooked me into knowing I need to get to the Marquesas at some point in my life, and I will. Then the other one are the Cook Islands and Society Islands combined in an 11-night itinerary. So you can go anywhere from 7 nights to 14, and anything in between based on those itineraries here. But the main one that we do build everything off of is this one here, round trip Papeete, that takes you into the islands of Huahine, Taha, 2 full days with an overnight in Bora Bora, and 2 full days with an overnight on the island of Moorea. So those 2, Bora Bora, as the ladies know, Bora Bora and Moorea are the 2 kind of jewel islands that most people really think about when they want to go to French Polynesia and spend some time down there. But we're able to take you to these other ones as well, all in that period of 1 week. So starting out, you would first go day 1 to Huahine, known as the Garden Island. And again, Larissa, you know these islands extremely well, so pipe in if you'd like to say anything whatsoever specifically about any of these islands. But Huahine, normally we visit that on a Sunday since the cruise will begin the night before. So based on that, not as many things are open that day. You can still rent a wave runner, of course, take an excursion around the island, do various things on foot, rent a bike, things like that. But it's more of a day, that first day in Huahine, that people kind of get to know the ship a little bit sometimes, where things are located, meet some of the other guests on board, get acquainted with some of the staff and crew, kind of that first day that you're just launching into the experience. And then day 2, we take
Let me
you
just
to.
jump in though, but that is like a windsurfing capital. When I was there, I mean, they had just finished some major international windsurfing competition. So, I mean, that part was really very interesting.
Yeah, there are some excellent, major competitions surfing off of Tahiti on the opposite side of the island from Papeete. So absolutely, down there are some incredible competitions, whether it's windsurfing, sailing, surfing itself, so on. Absolutely. And I don't mean to underplay. Oh, please go ahead, Larissa.
Before you move on to Taha and Wahine, if you go back 1 slide, you can see on the map of the island, there's a little silhouette of the island. You can hike up to a point in between the 2 bays, and so you can see down the other side. It's really fabulous.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful.
And your pronunciation is probably better than mine, Larissa. So, because Huahine, I know, and we always have said Huahine, but I know that I hear the locals pronounce it differently. And as Larissa just pronounced it, my understanding is that all of the vowels are pronounced in the Tahitian language. So it's yes. we say Moorea, but it's actually Moorea and Taha'a. But so feel free to correct me, Larissa, if I'm not actually saying it as properly as I should. You're the the savant of Tahiti, I think. So but then we do move on to the next full day, day 2, which is the island of Taha, and there's this beautiful experience, complimentary, included in the cruise for all of our guests on this private motu, which we shuttle back and forth to on the tenders throughout the course of the day. It's called Motu Mahana. And as you can see there, it is a beautiful barbecue set up on the beach with these umbrellas and straight along this beautiful inlet by the motu. Our staff and crew come out there and prepare this wonderful feast with all kinds of cocktails and all kinds of beautifully prepared seafoods and grilled meats and so on and so forth. So people can spend the entire day out there. They'll come out every, back and forth. The tender will leave people off, come back to the ship, go get more. People feel free to spend as long as they'd like to out there, or else maybe take an excursion in the morning and then go out in the afternoon, vice versa. But it really is extraordinary. It's a great way for our guests to get to know one another. It's a private motu, so no one else is on it that day other than our guests on Paul Gauguin. They do have some vendors that are set up at the end of the beach, all of whom have been vetted by our company to make sure that, you know, what they're selling is something that our guests would be interested in, and they're not hawking their wares along the beach while you're lying on a beach chair. They're just there and available if you'd like to see what they have. And then, as you can see here, getting off the tender, you've got this incredible clear water, unlike any I've ever seen anywhere in the Caribbean or the Med or anywhere else, just unbelievably blue. And the sea life, the rays, the snorkeling excursions and so forth. The swim out bar, we actually have the kayaks out there too, so you can kayak around the motu, and you can walk out, swim out, kayak out to have a Mai Tai or 2 or 3 or however many you'd like, because you're not driving home. So this is a great day. I'm going to let Daryl in here. He is now admitted. So this is basically an all-day experience for some people, part of the day for others, but an extraordinary, beautiful, wonderful experience for our guests. Then we move over the next day and the next day after that from Taha and that island to what many people consider the crown jewel of the South Pacific, Bora Bora, of course. And this is extraordinarily beautiful. There's no need to, you know, say it any other way. A small island, a gem of an island. And Larissa, you know it well if there's anything you'd like to say about it, because again, having been there several times, I always make sure anytime I go to take this off-road vehicle excursion that takes you to the very top of the island, as far as you can possibly get, where cars cannot access, only an off-road vehicle on some of the pitted roads, to get to the top, to look down. And as Larissa knows, as a professional photographer, I am not that, but my cell phone is loaded with photographs of this incredibly, I call it electric blue that you look out on inside the reef compared to the outside. It's just stunning. And there's Mount Otumanu, the signature peak in the background. You can kind of see the ship tucked in there in the bay there around the lagoon. So this is a private beach in the foreground that we will also take our guests out to, complimentary included, from Bora Bora to this private motu. Now, this is not designed the same way that the one I described to you the day before is. It's not a barbecue on the beach with, you know, a bar in the water, anything like that. It's more, there are some light refreshments here and, you know, obviously facilities, but it's really meant to be just a day where you might have some water sports equipment, kayak, stand-up paddleboard, but otherwise just lie under a bent coconut palm and be in this setting where you may never see it again. You know, you might only go once, and I always say, don't phone, just lie there, relax, and soak up some of the most natural, exquisite beauty you'll ever see. I just
want to say that the watercolor is actually the actual watercolor. That's like not a touched up photo. That's
I know
exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, I have heard it said many times, and I think you ladies will agree, and Kathleen, I know the photographs do not do justice to Tahiti. They just don't show what it's actually like in real life when you do see it. And my jaw drops every time I look at that water in person. I just can't believe I'm seeing it. There's nothing like it. James Missioner, the, of course, prolific, late esteemed, wonderful author who traveled the world and wrote about it, called Bora Bora the most beautiful island in the world. And I would never differ with that opinion of somebody with that kind of credibility. And I don't see how anybody could dispute that. It's just extraordinary. As I said, I keep using the word extraordinary because it's true about this destination. So we spend 2 full days in Bora Bora. So you do overnight and have the best of both, 8 a.m. one day until 5 p.m. the following day. And quickly that leads me to, if you see the overwater bungalows on the far side there, you can, and I have talked with many people that have done this, I have not myself, but you can actually stay in an overwater bungalow during the overnight, get off the ship, go stay in an overwater bungalow to have that experience built into the time frame that you're on our cruise, and not have to do a pre-post if you don't have the time allocated to do that. A lot of times, of course, you can do a 3-night pre-post, whatever, and combine the two, which is great. But if you just don't have the means, the time frame to do that, you could actually do it during the course of the cruise because of the overnight.
I
So
I'll just add in here, Bora Bora with the, you're there for sunrise and sunset. You have this incredibly open sky and the sunrises and sunsets are amazing with over this turquoise water. And with Mount Otomono, it's for pictures, it's amazing.
yeah, no, I absolutely. And I'm not at your level of photography by any means, but even at my level with my cell phone, I've gotten some shots that I just look at and go, wow, I took that. The destination did the work. But the other thing that I think is so wonderful about it is I was doing a presentation one time to a group of potential clients, and really quickly, somebody said, may I say a couple of words? And I said, of course you can. And he had been to Bora Bora, and he had been to French Polynesia in general, and he's a watercolor artist. And he said, you know, I brought my colors down with me, and I didn't have enough of different hues and different colors because there were so many varieties of green and blue and light and dark and mid. And he was stunned that as a professional watercolor artist, he didn't have enough on his palette that encompassed all of the different colors that he saw there. So, you know, I just, holy smokes, okay, that's an interesting comment that I've always remembered. So we do spend those 2 full days there in Bora Bora. And then from there, we head over to, let me get this moving again. We head to Moorea, and we spend 2 more days there, overnight again, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. the next day. So same story. You can say a few words, Larissa, if you care to, about your experience with Moorea. It's much larger than Bora Bora. They're both stunningly beautiful islands. I was just telling the ladies earlier, there's a hike that you can do, a trail hike that goes through some of this lush tropical scenery, of course, because it's Moorea, and then you get to the top of the island, you kind of have a view such as the one on the right there looking down. And I did that hike last time I was there. It's about an hour and a half, a little more than that round trip. And in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, I passed 2 people on my way up and 1 person on my way down. And we were talking about the difference between Hawaii. A trail like that in Hawaii, you'd be passing all kinds of people both directions. And I was just blown away by, wow, how few people are experiencing this along with me. But that's the way it is. There's a little, you know, trailhead that is just right off the main islands, you know, road that goes around the island, and you just start in from there, and it's right near. It's only about half a mile from where our tender takes you, and docks there to, you know, let you see the island and take excursions. And I haven't mentioned there's all kinds of excursions, both land and on the water, whether it's snorkeling, Zodiac, scuba, so forth, that will take you out to various, you know, reef areas and diving, you know, different drift diving and snorkeling experiences. And then obviously on land as well, off-road vehicle, I mentioned before, some are motor coach tours, but all kinds of well-established, knowledgeable people that know these islands very well hosting these tours, and along with our onboard staff and so forth. So great.
One of the things that makes this island particularly picturesque, and if you haven't noticed, maybe you didn't pick up on it, but there are no electrical lines. They're all buried. So as you tour around the island, you won't see any posts with telephone lines or cable lines or anything, because they're all underground.
Very good point. Absolutely. And actually, I was not even aware of that myself. So you're teaching me something here today, because I've obviously never seen them.
Talk about being back in time. I mean, you'll see phone booths.
Right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And even on Tahiti and Papeete, which is their major city, I mean, it's hard to find a building that's more than 3 or 4 stories high.
Right. No, it's interesting because people consider Papeete to be congested relative to the rest of Tahiti. And if you do look at it in that way, relatively it is. But compared to any city of any size in the States, Honolulu, you know, obviously, but others, it's just a small town. I mean, yes, you have traffic lights and so forth, but there's a lot to do there. The island is a little undersold. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about it, and I won't digress to go there, but you know, there's incredible natural beauty on the island of Tahiti itself, but because it's the, you know, embarkation, disembarkation for a lot of people don't spend much time pre or post necessarily there. But if they do, it's stunningly beautiful. The market right next to the pier where our ship docks is full of all kinds of interesting things, Tahitian cultural things, and pearls, and vanilla, and the soaps, and all the other things that the locals will also go there for. So all these islands are, as I said, they're exquisite in their own way. So it's not a better or worse between any of them. Some people have preferences, obviously, that's human nature, but I can't say anything to degrade in any way any of these islands and the experience on any of them. I did mention one of the calling cards that a lot of people are very interested about our ship is the water sports marina. We have some very enthusiastic water sports people that come down and will scuba dive, stand up, paddleboard, kayak. So there you can see it on the lower left there where it comes out of the back of the ship there, and the Zodiacs for scuba will go out from there. So this is something where these are additional, these are officially excursions. So this is something that you would pay additionally for, but again, in many cases, the shipboard credit that you get from Sandy and Larissa through Virtuoso will help with that. But it's just the equipment itself you would check out there for the scuba, for the snorkeling, and this would be done. So
I hung up my diving gear years ago, but there were colleagues of mine when we were on this trip who the diving was so fantastic, they just kept booking it day after day because it was so beautiful.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, we have people that are incredibly enthusiastic about it. And one of the things that I hadn't really touched on that kind of, takes you into that is that this is making it such a convenient upscale water sports experience as well. A lot of times you hear that expression, the golf widow or the scuba widow or whatever it might be, because he or she is the one that does the sport and the other may be, not involved in it, but you can do all the scuba you want. I met my first experience on the Paul Gauguin, I met this wonderful couple from Portland, and he was a big time diver. He'd go out on a couple of dives a day. She was not a diver, but she was having a great time because of all the things going on the ship too. They weren't staying in a hotel or an overwater bungalow where she was kind of just on her own while he was out scuba diving. She was, enjoying the entertainment by the Gauguins and enjoying the music and the being on the ship and, doing all the things that she could do. And she would go on an excursion on her own while he was scuba diving.
And then they come back and have a lovely dinner today and share what they did for the day. I mean, it's perfect.
Exactly. No, absolutely. And another thing that I'll quickly touch on is, as you all know, getting around the Hawaiian Islands, I'm making that comparison to get Hawaii and Tahiti and French Polynesia. Getting around the islands in Hawaii is pretty easy to do. Of course, scheduled flights throughout the course of the day and the week between Oahu and Maui and Kauai and so forth. It's not easy like that in French Polynesia. Getting from island to island, as we do in 1 week, to take you to all these destinations with the overnights combined with Bora Bora and Moorea, that would be very challenging to do on your own because of the lack of inter-island flights and the time frame associated with ferries and packing and unpacking and repacking and all of that. If you're hardy and adventuresome, in that way, more power to you. But for convenience, being able to just unpack when you get on our ship, go island to island the way that we've gone through here, and not have to think about any of that as you do it, is an incredible convenience. And we're the only cruise line that's fully there operationally year round. As I said, we were never out of these islands. This is exactly where we spend our time. And so I think it really does.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
I was gonna emphasize, like, the scuba diving is amazing, but the snorkeling is amazing too. And for people who maybe haven't had a PADI certification, or they are more fearful to go under the water, the snorkeling is amazing. You can just stay at the surface around the coral heads and the coral gardens, and it's unbelievable.
Absolutely. No, you can see 40 feet below you, just from anywhere you are in these waters. It's extraordinary in that sense. It's jaw-dropping from above looking down at the water, and it's jaw-dropping when you're in the water looking down further. Just unbelievable to me that I've never seen water that clear in my life anywhere. Now, just in summary, I kind of wanted to go over the main key points that really are what define us, the 5 things I think that are listed here that are most important. we are a small ship, only 332 guests. And again, I can't overemphasize the fact that the ship was designed specifically to sail these islands. So that shallow draft, only about 17.5 feet, enabling us to get so much closer, as that photo earlier on showed you, right up close, personal, and intimate to the islands, where larger ships could not be anywhere close to where we are. On the left there, these lovely young French Polynesian hosts that are part of our staff and crew, and provide that cultural experience, entertainment, dance, music, just wonderful to have on board and part of our staff and crew. The 2 full days, we're in port, at least on this 7-night itinerary. There are no days at sea. When we do the longer itineraries, Marquesas, Tuamotus, we'll have a little more time at sea, but not here on the 7-night that I've showed you. But we do still have 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. full days in port, and then the 2 overnights in Bora Bora and Moorea. So again, just being able to experience that. What I love too, Larissa, you were hearkening to this, is the sunsets. We leave port at 5 p.m. usually, and depending on time of year and so forth, but that is a beautiful time of day. I mean, any time of year it is, but leaving port, I remember when I first went on the first Paul Gauguin cruise, when I first started with the company to experience it, to get to know what I was going to be talking about. I had been to Tahiti before, but I'd never been on the water sailing these islands. I had been at a specific resort. So seeing it from the islands at sunset, sailing out, people lining the railing, sipping a glass of champagne or wine or whatever, I can honestly tell you, I was looking around, watching people going, everyone here is mesmerized by this. And I was thinking, this is going to be an incredibly cool thing to sell, because people, they were just stunned by the beauty of it. And you can say that about any of these islands at any time, but sailing, when you see the islands from the water, staying just on a property, which is lovely in its own way, really changes the experience. Seeing them, recede as you're leaving, get closer into view as you're arriving. Then expansive deck space. The ship is almost 20,000 tons, so it's a large enough ship to accommodate many more people than we actually do with our 330 or so. Instead, we wanted to keep it much leaner in terms of congestion, not having lines for anything, whether it's getting into the dine, having a drink at the bar, even shore excursions, waiting up to get onto the tender and moving, rapidly and easily, fluidly. So that's a very important point. You don't have to claim a deck chaise lounge in the morning and put your towel and cap on it so no one else takes it. There's plenty for everyone on board. So it's really nicely laid out. And as I said, lack of congestion it's a great part of this experience, not having that. And then quickly, those 2 private motus that I mentioned earlier are included in the rate that you pay. Motu Mahana off of Taha, and then Bora Bora, and that full day that you can spend, or as long as you care to spend, out there on that beautiful private motu there. So just finishing up, I'll spend a little time talking again about the value, because I cannot overemphasize enough, as the ladies know, it is one of the more expensive places on earth to travel to because of that. So dining out on your own, cost of just a simple beer and nothing fancy, is going to be much more expensive than you'll find even in the pricier US cities. So we actually, if you look down, I won't go through all these bullet points and bore you to tears, but there are so many things that are packaged into our experience that you would have to do a la carte on your own, just finding the entertainment that we provide inclusive on board. Of course, the water sports and the marina and the activities there, those 2 private motus, the airfare, our price includes airfare round trip from Los Angeles packaged into that price. So the price that you see there at the bottom, $39.95, we actually come in lower than that for 2022, starting with our pricing at $3,800. We actually have a fully all-inclusive with air round trip from LA, transfers, day room if needed, everything packaged in that you already have heard about, starting at $3,800 on a couple of itineraries for Paul Gauguin Cruises. Comparing to a land package, when it looks like it's $5,895, I think that's closer to $7,000 or more. And again, Larissa, you can speak to that. You've spent so much time in South Pacific. But I think that's a conservative estimate to say that a similar land package would be at about less than $6,000 even. So moving past that, I want to finish up. I kind of think this is what would be the money shot to me of French Polynesia. Larissa, you're the photographer, but I think this package is it all in here. There you see Mount Otumanu, you see the ship, you see that
Great
dramatic
image.
contrast from the reef, that blue, and then the darker water outside, the overwater bungalows. That's Bora Bora, that's French Polynesia and Tahiti. And I just cannot overestimate how dramatically scenic and beautiful this part of the world is. So Hawaii is wonderful. Make that comparison. There's nothing wrong with Hawaii. It's not a better or worse. If you want nightlife at 2:30 a.m., you're going to find that in Waikiki, and you won't necessarily find it in French Polynesia so much. But I just find that undervisited aspect, just the natural setting, the warmth of the locals, everything about it just combines with this shockingly beautiful imagery and visuals to just, be, to me, paradise on earth. And obviously James Missioner found similarities in his opinion. So that's kind of the overview.
I want to jump in on the value of this. I mean, for people who go to Hawaii this year, kind of post-COVID and people going, the rates in Hawaii are through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is probably less expensive to go to Tahiti now than it may be to Hawaii. I mean, you're looking at $800-900 a night for a hotel room. I mean, rental cars, if you can even find them. And if you don't have a rental car, how do you get around the islands in Hawaii? I mean, I think this is really the year to take a chance and, see the difference and really experience Tahiti, because this is incredible value. And Hawaii is really off the charts now.
Right. No, I understand completely, because I've heard that from, obviously my job involves dealing with travel advisors regularly, and I'm hearing that from many more people than what you just said there, Sandy. So I completely understand. Next year, I will make a note that we are moving to what's a sliding scale pricing called dynamic pricing model. And I know you ladies are familiar with that. So as the occupancy level goes up on any specific sailing, category pricing will, up as well in different areas. But we still do in January of 2022, for instance, have those two sailings at least that begin at $3,800 right now.
That's an incredible value. I mean, what a great Christmas present. I mean, people have not spent time together. You get a couple, you get a bunch of friends together and just kind of, do it for the holidays or afterwards. I mean, what a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And we do work with groups very closely. We handle groups very, very well. And there is a price advantage to going as a group. So you ladies can, obviously work with your clients on that level, but there is a built-in reduction in rate for groups.
What's the youngest traveler that you take on the ship?
We take children as young as a year old. So
are there any kind of kids programs?
We have a youth program, and we're going to be addressing that further as we start back on the water August 28th. We have traditionally had a youth program with ages 17 that they participate in various programs that are led by counselors, trained qualified counselors, of course, that are very familiar with the destination and the culture and so forth. And they have been putting these programs together for quite a long time, and they've been really popular with families and parents bringing their kids down, because they're not focused on the things that you can do at home at all. And they're not focused on what some of the larger ships do, like a video arcade or a rock climbing wall, or some of those things, which are fine. It's just, this is French Polynesia. We wanted younger people to realize what a paradise this is in terms of the setting, the natural world, the underwater life, protection of the reefs, of course, because they're in peril to an extent. So really learning with, fun built in, to those about what they're seeing and experiencing firsthand. But again, I mentioned earlier, there'll be volleyball games on the beach, things of that nature too. So moving forward, Kathleen and I will make a point of keeping you in the loop as that evolves, because now that we're restarting August 28th, we're obviously in a time frame where we're going to see how protocols are, changing and what needs to be addressed, and with this, that, and the other. I've never used the word fluid more in my life than I have in the past year and a half, whether it's policies, protocols, vaccinations required or not. And I hate to say that, but that's the world we live in now. So we're very optimistic that restarting August 28th with French Polynesia being a destination that is so many fewer people down there than you'll find in more crowded destinations like Hawaii. I don't mean to keep singling Hawaii out, but there are parallels that we make between these island groups. And, you know, I think a lot of people would feel more comfortable being in a much less densely populated and you know, congested area as you might be in Honolulu or some other parts of
and you're outdoors every day.
Right, absolutely. This is an outdoor experience. It doesn't mean you know have to do all of the outdoor activities, but you know, if you're not doing a shore excursion outdoors or doing some of the scuba and snorkeling and things like that, you're going to probably want to lie on the pool deck and, you know, read a good book and do something like that, whatever it may be that interests you. One of the things that I think is so, in summary, so beautiful about traveling down here, and as the destination expert, Larissa, you can speak to this, I think, none of these islands has an Eiffel Tower or a Westminster Abbey or a Prada Museum or the Louvre. So there isn't any one thing that our guests feel like, you got to do that, you got to do that, you got to do that. If we went there and didn't do that, we'd have been missing out on something that everyone else does, and for a good reason. So I think what is kind of nice about this in its way is it can be such an unscripted, spontaneous experience. Yes, you know, you'll plan some excursions that you know you want to do. And if you're a diver or a big time snorkeler, you want to make sure that you fit those things into your experience too. But you're not missing this one key thing that you like I mentioned. I love that excursion off-road vehicle to the top of Bora Bora. I just, every time I'm there, I want to do that again. But that's me, you know, and other people might want to, you know, take their bikes and ride around Bora Bora. I think the last time we did that, it was $15 to rent a one-speed bike to ride around the island. That's a pretty nice investment of value to what you pay to get the experience of riding around one of the most beautiful places on earth for $15 for the whole day. And not that it's all about money, but it's just, you know, some things, you know, you can't put a price on. And that was one of them. I just was like, wow, that was really cool. And stopping, you know, Bloody Marys, you know, not that it's a little touristy, but, you know, we had lunch there on the way back before we returned the bikes, and it was a great day. So, I mean, things like that.
I think French Polynesia, with the nature, the sea, the sky, the lush green, it's a way to disconnect, to reconnect. And so, as you mentioned, you don't have all these obligations, like I've got to go see the Eiffel Tower. It's more like, oh my gosh, I've got to go swimming with the rays, or I've got to like see the black-tipped sharks. And you're reconnecting with nature and disconnecting from all the stress or just other things that go on in your normal life.
Absolutely, 100%. I feel that way every time I'm down there. And Kathleen and I have talked about this so many times. It's just decompression. You know, we all have busy lives. We all have a lot going on. We're all connected all the time. It's the nature of the world we live in now. But yeah, down there, I mean, yes, we have Wi-Fi on the ship, and, you know, it's still the middle of the South Pacific. It's not going to be instantaneous. And, you know, it's fine if you want to do that, but it is so spiritually nourishing and reinvigorating to be surrounded by this kind of natural beauty all the time, and the colors and the water and everything about it. It really feeds your inner spirit, and I feel completely revitalized every time I come back. The only drawback to me is, as I was saying to the ladies earlier, in that 1 week time frame, which is a glorious gift to be able to have to spend, by day 5, it's just, you're so relaxed. Everything is just so beautiful. You're thinking, at least me, I speak for myself, I'm like, okay, we have that one more day and then we're leaving. So yeah. I love your idea of spending.
Hard to say goodbye to Tahiti.
Yeah, it's very challenging, very difficult, but that's why we love to be able to go back and have that good fortune if possible. So some people put Tahiti on their wish list to get to. And I think everyone should. I always say this in finishing up with any presentation I ever do is, we would love to host any and all that want to come on the Paul Gauguin, because we know what a glorious experience it is. But whether or not it's on the Paul Gauguin or anywhere else that you visit or stay, you do owe it to yourself to get to Tahiti at some point in your life. You absolutely do. You'll never forget it. It will be a trip that you'll treasure and cherish forever. And that's why many people go back over and over and over again. I have a travel advisor here in San Francisco that I'm very closely with over the years with some groups. He has been 19 times on our ship accompanying groups.
Wow.
And I'm astonished, but
So you got a target to make.
yeah, I wouldn't mind spending the 4 months like Larissa has too. That would be an extraordinary thing. So there's no bad way to visit Tahiti, I think is the way we're trying to say it. There's no disappointing way to experience Tahiti in French Polynesia. So that's kind of my overall presentation. If anything else, of course, Larissa and Sandy are more than happy to follow up with anyone on, specific questions, and Kathleen and I will follow up with the two of them on any more details that we can furnish in terms of, additional images and things of that nature, blog post material, whatever it may be. So.
But you can find us on our website, and it's very easy. WeMakeTravelEasy.com. And Larissa has, there's a page about Larissa, and you can contact her. You can contact me. Anyone in our company would love to help you plan a fabulous, wonderful, incredible trip to Tahiti. So We Make Travel Easy, as we're really easy to find, and we'll make your travel easy.
That sounds great to me. Okay.
I look forward to seeing all of you in Tahiti one day.
Right.
We'll make that happen. Absolutely. And we'll get you two ladies on again, Sandy, for another time, and Larissa will definitely get you on for your first time.
Absolutely. I'm all in.
Sounds great. Well, we're right at 6 o'clock, so that was our time frame.
Well,
So
thank you. This
so
was
much.
fabulous. And it was fabulous to just revisit everything, because it was really a wonderful week. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies, for organizing. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Kathleen, for being a part of the
Well,
presentation.
Thanks, Kathleen.
For joining us.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, take care, y'all. Thanks again.
Sandy.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Laura.